Hello everybody, and welcome back to another video. Now today is, sadly, the Hello Neighbor review. It's another review, guys. I love reviews. Now, as you can see, I'm back on the microphone because this one is a piece of shit again because it keeps like doing this weird echo feedback thing. I'm gonna have to figure that out, but you guys get to see me in my natural form with my hair down and not swooped to the side. But anyway, today is Hello Neighbor 2. Now, if you were on YouTube in the land of 2016, 2017, you may know Hello Neighbor 1. And if you don't, let me give you a rundown of Hello Neighbor 1. Now, way back in 2016, there was this game called Hello Neighbor. It showed a ton of promise. You just kind of spawned in and tried to break into this guy's house. You didn't know why, you didn't know how, you just kind of did it. And it had great timing, great jump scares. It was very weird and closed off, but at the same time was very open. It was very odd. It was a very odd game. And it showed a lot of promise, because it was a demo. We all saw the stages of it. But then, as, the stages progressed, they got worse and worse and worse. And as the, stages progressed, it also got weirder and more nonsensical and everything of the sorts. And there was no reason, there was no rhyme, it just got bigger and more complicated. There was minimal story, and still, even on the release day of the official, full done game, no longer a demo, no longer in, production stage, there was still no fully fleshed out story. Now, as the internet does, we theorized a shit ton, but there was never anything that was actually substantial there, and it was very frustrating, for such a game that honestly had a ton of promise, especially in the beginning. Now, Hello Neighbor 2 came out. For God knows a reason, I don't know why. I honestly do not understand why they would release a second game when their first one flopped so bad. If you want a Hello Neighbor number 1 review, let me know by leaving a like or down in the comments below, because I will gladly make that for you guys, because I have a lot of opinions on that game. But Hello Neighbor 2, I was like, okay, you know what, fine, I'll watch it. Let's see what hippity happens. And what hippity happened did not make me hippity happy. Let's begin with something similar to what I did with The Devil in Me. And I'm going to start with some good things. Now, the graphics. The semi-cartoon sort of thing feels really nice. You don't always have to have hyper-realistic graphics. In fact, sometimes it makes the game better not to. So I really appreciated that they continued that in this game. And then, of course, the find and go somewhere mechanic. Sometimes it seemed really annoying, and it kind of seemed nonsensical, but on other portions that kind of related to the story, it was very actually executed quite well. And then, of course, the story. Now, hear me out, guys. This is also a negative, as I've already stated, but you can't deny the fact that it's so confusing and stupid that you kind of want to understand. And that's almost the grabbing point of Hello Neighbor, is that I don't know what the fuck is going on. I want to find out more. That was kind of the whole purpose of, especially in Hello Neighbor 1, the demos. All the different demos, you're like, why is the house getting bigger? What's happening? Why is, the neighbor trapping children in his basement? What has to do with the basement? Why is the basement empty? Like, you were always wondering and curious about Hello Neighbor, and I think that was almost the draw to it, as well as the backlash from it. Open world concept is kind of cool. Of course, you guys know I love open world stuff, but in a horror game setting, no. Plus the loading times were not very good, but we'll get to that later in the negatives. Overall, the concept, kind of like The Devil in Me, the foundation was there, but the rest of it was not there. The concept of an open world was actually quite a good idea. And now we get to the negatives. AKA most of the game. So, I have a whole paragraph of stuff like this, okay? So, number 1, glitches. Not even funny glitches get a pass at this point. I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you. It just breaks the game to the point of where you can't even, where you can skip puzzles, which are the whole point of the game. It's just a puzzle game, basically. It isn't even a horror game. Anyway, we'll get to that later. Sorry, but it adds nothing to the gameplay. And obviously, because it's a glitch. And just like previous Hello Neighbor builds, it's so infuriating, even to watch. Like, there's certain YouTubers, kind of like Markiplier, where he rages and it's funny, you know, but you can also, you feel his anger, you feel the pain, you feel every bit of it, because it's just that frustrating as well to watch, and it's no different in Hello Neighbor 2, I will tell you that right now. It is incredibly frustrating to watch, especially because of the glitches. And, you know, when you play video games yourself, whether you play games like this or nothing like this, glitches are always going to be part of a game. Whether you like it or not, it is going to be part of a game. However, that does not mean that you can release a game, Cyberpunk, that is completely glitched out, that completely breaks the game and breaks the immersion and is just awful on release day. Doesn't matter how long it takes. I'd rather wait 5 years for an awesome game than 1 year for a completely broken game that is just not worth it. And then, of course, you have the flow of gameplay. The flow of gameplay is definitely not a great component. The flow of the gameplay, like the bakery and the mayor, and like visiting all these people and bringing into their homes as well. So you're just basically committing a lot of crimes with no rhyme or reason to it. And why are they there? There's no story for them. They have never been mentioned in any of the other games, including this one. They're just there. And, but it adds nothing to the gameplay. And it's just like every other thing you do with the neighbor. It makes no sense story-wise, no sense overall in general. It never makes sense. And the constant flashbacks and then the new area kind of helps this flow, but it just gets old after a while. So does the loading times. That also got very old very quickly. Now, the ending. Once again, kind of like The Devil in Me, it was ass. It's like the top 10 worst video game endings ever, in my book at least. Now, the end. Okay, let's talk about it. Let's talk, guys. Okay, before I get to the end, let's actually talk about the story. The story's awful. Let me just bring up a couple points. Even after, 5 years, you still have no idea why you are breaking into this man's house, why you're jeopardizing your family that you may or may not have, that's never been confirmed, and, more importantly, why this guy takes over your house, because he does that again in this game, just like he did in, a previous build of Hello Neighbor 1, and why do you not care, or why do you not care about your house, but why do you care about this random-ass kid that may or may not be yours, by the way, but it doesn't seem like he's yours, but it also might be the neighbor's, but why do you care, and why, the neighbor may or may not have that kid, you don't know, because we still don't know any of the story, it just doesn't make any sense. It's still just a jumbled mess, just like Hello Neighbor 1. And I know a lot of people were looking forward to this game, but it just makes zero sense. In fact, I know a ton of YouTubers that started this gameplay and ended it immediately, because it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make for a good story. The ending. Let's continue with the ending. The ending, again, top 10 worst video game endings ever, up there with The Devil in Me. Spoiler, you work really hard to help out a crying child, which, again, may or may not be yours or the neighbor's. And he goes to save the neighbor, who may or may not have been torturing him. And, what does that child give you, you may wonder? Oh, yeah, nothing. You just get clocked in the back of the head with no rhyme or reason. Again, who did it, what done it, and why done it. You get none of those 3 questions answered. Ever in the game. In the whole entire game, beginning, middle, end, you don't get any of those answers. Can you tell why this is my top 10 worst video game endings ever? It doesn't have a substantial story throughout, it doesn't have a good flow of gameplay, the glitches, the end. How can you ever rate this game highly? It just doesn't make any sense. And there's no resolution, there's no awesome mystery, ooh, whodunit, again, solved. And there is just nothing. But there's, after the credits, they did say they're working on a more neighbor story. Maybe a cohesive story, that would be nice, please. I'm literally begging you, but I have literally no hope here. Very little to no hope here, because if you're working on a new story, do a completely new story. Do not start from Hello Neighbor 1 or 2, because both of them have completely incohesive stories that make you just want to, also get clocked in the back of the head, because it makes zero sense, and there is absolutely no reason rhyme or reason where you should care about this kid, why you should care about the neighbor, why you had to get clocked in the head, and why you're investigating this thing in the first place, because you're a half police officer, but police officers also don't trust you going into crime scenes, so it's almost like you're a phony police officer, kind of like that one that showed up on Dr. Phil.
What are you doing? What does it look like I'm doing, dumb? Get over before you find out.
Seriously?
The character, again, you don't feel anything for the character of the neighbor, you don't feel anything for the character of the kid, you don't feel anything for your own character that you're playing as, because you don't know anything about him. And there's also this point, where's the horror? Now, maybe there was something I was unaware of, and they just didn't want to go for horror this time, which makes complete sense, right? Maybe you want to go in a completely different direction. But where's the horror in this labeled horror game? If they were going for horror, they completely and utterly failed. There was no crazy jump scares, which is awesome, right? You know, subtle things. I love that in horror games. But this didn't even have a subtle thing. This literally had nothing. Listen to the music here. Listen to the chase scene music right now.
I miss like the old scary music where he used to be scary. That's not scary.
How does that scare anyone? I mean, like, how does that scare anybody? I'm sorry, I have watched a lot of horror games over the years. Maybe I'm numb to it at this point, but how is that scary to even a 5-year-old dude? Sometimes when it pops out of nowhere, sometimes it's scary. But other than that, there's nothing there that's scary. I mean, it's like more mystery, which is awesome, cool. But again, there's no story anyway, so it doesn't make sense, and even like the music reflects it, so it seems like more like a mystery sort of thing, like whodunit. It's more like an episode of Criminal Minds or something rather than a horror game, and again, that's totally fine, but if you're gonna do a mystery whodunit, make it more cohesive, make it more interesting to watch, and make it a story rather than just seems like a bunch of code that you just kind of slapped together. Alright, so the AI, kind of going back to Hello Neighbor 1, the thing that brought the most attention to Hello Neighbor 1 was the AI. Now, the AI learned from your mistakes, and it actually set out traps based on how many times or what entrances you used to get into the house. They would board up windows if you broke them and entered through them. They would put up, by meaning the AI, would put up bear traps in front of the doors inside and outside so you couldn't get in through the doors. You know, they would set up like traps of poison and, you know, blah blah blah, right? That was the whole thing that drew popularity to Hello Neighbor 1 in the first place. Now, none of that is present in this game. The drawing factor from the game is gone. The whole point of what made Hello Neighbor awesome was the pacing, the jump scares, and the AI. That was the whole point of, especially the first demo of Hello Neighbor. That was what shocked the internet. That's what made everything blow up for everybody was, wow, this seems like a cool, cohesive story. Let's try it out. That sounds awesome. None of it. In this game. None of it. They decided, hey, let's leave in the glitches, let's leave in the bad storyline, let's leave in that terrible end, let's leave in the non-existent horror elements, and let's also take away from the main thing from the AI. Let's do that. That sounds like a great idea. It's sad. It's sad. Now, the AI, maybe it's there, but it's either dumb, glitched, or always in one spot for the impossible factor, because that was another thing that made Hello Neighbor 1 bad, was that a lot of the builds, they kind of fixed it in the final version, but a lot of the demo builds were very hard, to the point where you just couldn't get into his house, you couldn't even set foot on his property anymore. Now, of course, that ramps up the difficulty, but if it gets to the point where it's impossible to get into the house, let alone, like, set foot on the property, let alone get into the house, that completely ruins the whole point of the game. Where did the funny, scary, the AI is gonna get me sort of Hello Neighbor go? I don't know where the hell she went, but she needs to come back. Because this whole game was just pain upon pain upon pain. It just never stopped. The last part was also a kind of double-edged sword because it was good in concept and theory, but not good in practice, and that is the open world. So the open world causes a lot of loading screens. Like, picking up a key caused a loading screen. now. I always complain about loading screens. You guys know I play The Sims. Literally, The Sims 4 has so many loading screens. And if you accidentally press a button, guess what? You have to go through 3 loading screens in order to undo that. So I understand the open world concept is great. Loading screens are ass. You know what I mean? But if you have an open world and you can't support the open world and you still have to do loading screens even when doing something as simple as picking up a key, then it shouldn't be there. It should not be a factor at all. I don't know about the game mechanics, but, you know, is that an issue that shouldn't be present? Is that, like, a feature? Is that something, like, a glitch? Is that something that was just for the person I was watching, aka, Bijou Mike? Was that, like, what kind of issue was that? Because I don't know. Everything from the story to the actual mechanics was just not there, and it just made the story completely unenjoyable. It made the game almost completely unenjoyable. Of course, there's the magic of, ooh, maybe this will turn around all of a sudden in Hello Neighbor. Even when I go back and watch those old videos of Hello Neighbor 1, I'm still like, ooh, this is like, you know, this used to be a good game. But now it's not, and it just doesn't have a cohesive storyline. It doesn't have a reason, a rhyme, not a singular glitch is absent. I will tell you that there was a million glitches in this game, and it is honestly so... It's sad because there's a good foundation for this game. There's the style, the graphics, there's the, you know, there's a grab aspect, like the storyline. The not knowing is a good aspect to the story, but if you're always not knowing, it just gets frustrating, and it just doesn't make sense. And, you know, an open world in a horror game, that seems like a decent concept, doesn't it? But maybe in practice, it's not for horror games. And in certain horror games, it's great, it's awesome. It actually adds to the gameplay. But in this case of a whodunit mystery, it does not work at all. And the fact that you just added, like, threw in characters also makes no sense. And they don't add anything to the storyline. They never have. They never will. And it just doesn't make sense to me. I'm sorry. So honestly, with all of those components in mind, I am going to give this game a 1 out of 10. Maybe 1.5. Maybe 1.5 if I'm feeling generous. So editor Tori, you choose. Again, I'm sad to say that because it has a ton of promise and it had a ton of, you know, things going for it, but it didn't work. And like I said, if they want to work on more story, more power to them. But please, please fix your games, fix your storyline, and fix your endings, fix your flow of gameplay, and fix your open world. Just fix everything. Obviously, the glitches, try and minimize those as much as possible. The storyline, make it cohesive, make it something that we can care about, make characters that we can care about, so then that way that the storyline is tied. And then, of course, the end. With a good story comes a good ending. With a bad story comes a bad ending. That's usually how it rolls. Even sometimes with a good story, you can still have a bad ending. Kind of like Little Hope. So sometimes that's the case, but if you make a good story, most of the time you'll be able to make a good ending because you'll be able to tie those two ends together. You need to do that for your next game. I don't know why I'm thinking, oh yeah, they're watching. You know, all the developers watch me. I'm talking like they are, so I'm just going to continue doing that. And then, of course, you need to, you know, consider the horror aspect. Do you still want to go with horror? Do you still, you know, do the developers still want to go with horror, with mystery? You know, they could do both. They could do either. It doesn't matter, but you need to put both of those aspects in, and if you don't, it's a uncohesive mess, and that's exactly what this game was. So if you fix those issues, it'll be great. And adding the AI back in, that was a drawing factor for a lot of players, and if you brought that in and improved it, especially with, like, you know, non-2016 technology, you'll be able to improve it quite a bit. And I think it would make a really good game. No, just scrap the loading screens. Honestly, you can try and make them work, but loading screens are just so hit and miss when it comes to horror games. And if you can't make it work, don't force it, because you'll get a review like this on YouTube. So it just is not a very good game. And yeah, it was honestly disappointing. But, you know, you can always think the graphics. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video, despite, you know, the negativity and stuff. I just wanted to maybe bring attention to this game, maybe, you know, educate some people about early Hello Neighbor days, I don't know. Yeah, I just kind of want to do more movie reviews, game reviews, kind of like this, and I think that would be super fun, and, yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, do make sure to leave a like, a comment, and subscribe to join the opportunity today. As usual, I would love to know your guys' opinions and comments on this subject. It would be really cool to see if there's any, you know, Hello Neighbor 2 lovers in, you know, watching, and I'd love to see if you guys, you know, can maybe change my opinion on the game. I think that'd be a really cool conversation to have. So, like I said, I hope you guys enjoy, like, comment, subscribe, you know, all the jazz. Y'all know what to do, and I hope to see you in the next one. So long for now, my team.